A new skill that we are going to be working on in class this week is being able to multiply mixed numbers, such as 1 and 3/5 times 2 and 3/4. Now, when we set up problems like this, we're going to use an area model similar to what we used in the beginning of the year when we multiplied multi-digit whole numbers. So what we're going to start off by doing is here we have 1 and 3/5. What we're going to do with 1 and 3/5 is we're going to split it up. So the students know that 1 and 3/5 actually equals 1 plus 3/5. And we also know that 2 and 3/4 equals 2 plus 3/4. Now that we have split up our mixed numbers, we can now use that to set up our area model. So I'm going to represent 1 and 3/5 up here. We have 1 and 3/5. Split up my place values. I have 2 and I have 3/4. I'm going to split up my place values. So just like we did in the beginning of the year with our area model, in this first box I'm going to be doing 2 times 1. My second box, I'm going to be doing 2 times 3/5. My third box, I'm going to be doing 3/4 times 1. And in my final box here, I'm just going to be doing 3/4 times 3/5. So let's go ahead and solve that real quick. I know if I do 2 times 1, I'm going to get 2. 2 times 3/5, there's two ways to think about that. If I'm doing 2 times anything, I know I'm doubling. 3/5 doubled would be 6/5. Or if I set up 2 over 1 and multiply across, 2 times 3 is 6, 1 times 1 is 5. Either way, I'm still going to get 6/5, which is an improper fraction, but it's okay for now. The students know that whenever we multiply a number by 1, I'm always going to get that same number. 3/4 times 1 will give me 3/4. And we worked a lot with this last week by just multiplying fractions, and we learned the simple trick that when we multiply fractions, all we got to do is multiply across. So multiply my numerators, 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 5 is 20. And just like we did with our multi-digit whole numbers, we now have 4 partial products. To get my final product, all I got to do is I got to add up these 4 partial products. So now I have 2 plus 6/5 plus 3/4 plus 9/20. And if you remember earlier in the year, we spent a lot of time on adding fractions. And the students know that we cannot add fractions unless we have our common denominator. So between 5, 4, and 20, I'm going to go ahead and use 20 as that common denominator. So the 2 is a whole number. I can leave it as 2. 6/5, that's going to be equivalent to a fraction with the denominator 20. 5 times 4 is 20, therefore I got to multiply my 6 times 4, I get 24. I know 3/4 is also equivalent to a fraction with 20 as its denominator. Multiply 4 times 5, I get 20, so I got to multiply my numerator by 5. 3 times 5 is 15. And now I can leave 9/20 the same because it already has a denominator of 20. So now let's go ahead and break this down. So I have 24 plus 15. If I do that, I know I have 39 over 20. 39 over 20 plus 9 over 20 will go ahead and give me 48 over 20. And I got my whole number here. So I got 2 and 48/20. But now I can't leave it like this. I can't leave my final answer like this because it is an improper fraction. So in doing this, my denominator is 20, so how many groups of 20 can I take out of 48 without going over? Well, if I count by 20s, I know I got 20, 40, 60. 60 is too big, so I'm going to go ahead and take 40/20 out, which is 2 wholes. So if I do that, instead of having 2, I now have 4. I know that 2 wholes is really 40 over 20, so I'm really taking 40 away. If I take 40 away from 48, I'm left with 8. And now I have my final answer here of 4 and 8/20. So again, this is a lot of steps, but it's everything that we've been doing so far this year. The students are very familiar with their area model, and they're very familiar with adding and subtracting fractions with uncommon denominators. But this is what they are going to be working on this week. Homework went out today. We will be practicing this again tomorrow. So if your student seems like they're having a difficult time with it tonight, try it again tomorrow, because tomorrow we will be practicing this as well. If you have any questions based on what you have just seen, feel free to contact me anytime. Thank you.